Leeds United seem to be sort of ramping up for the transfer market at the minute, and that means that a lot of conversations going on around players that Leeds have an interest in or that could ultimately benefit from a move to Leeds United. There's talk from the Leeds side, there's talk from the agent side, but as things are going on, you start to see patterns emerging. You start to see an idea of what sort of shape this transfer market might take. Admittedly, being Leeds United fans, we look at January and we say, there's nothing going to happen there. It's going to be a bit boring. We're all going to want something. We're all going to get nothing. But there seems to be something going on at the moment that is pointing in the direction of some movement, and I thought I'd have a little bit of a chat about it right now. A little bit of a warning. If the video cuts off relatively early, it's because I'm recording this at 7:11 in the morning. I've had the night shift with the baby, who is asleep right there, so if she starts losing her mind, I may have to sort of wrap up fairly sharpish. Anyway, let's get into it. Also, like and subscribe and all that kind of nonsense. Thank you. Or hype. I don't know what it is, but do that if you can. I don't know. Anyway, a lot of the stories that have come out regarding Leeds United are, of course, surrounding attacking players because we know that's an area that we need to improve. We're looking in sort of wing areas, we're looking at the sort of 10 area. I'm not seeing much conversation about a striker, but that could continue to emerge, and I've been a little bit out of the loop. But there is a little bit of a consistent pattern I've noticed, and it is something that adds up with the idea that Leeds United might not have a ton of money to throw around in January. Yes, we've been linked with some permanent moves, but the majority of it has been surrounding loan deals. And you might have clicked on the thumbnail where I've whited out a person just to be like, oh, it's a little bit of a mystery. Spoiler warning, that's Manor Solomon. Because one of the big sort of rumours that's been hovering around at the minute is that Leeds United have a little bit of an interest in re-signing Manor Solomon. Went over to Villarreal, which is, Champions League side. He thought he'd get a decent amount of football. That's why I wasn't too mad at him going to Villarreal, because it's like, well, they're playing in the Champions League. Of course you want to play over there. But in terms of minutes, since he made that move, he's been a little bit thin on the ground. If I have a very quick look at how much football he's actually played this season, it's not the best for him. Let's be completely honest. He's had 6 appearances in La Liga so far this season, totaling 150 minutes. Started once outside of that when it comes to Champions League stuff. He's also not played too much there either, which means that he's in a little bit of a position where he's going to have to do something. You can't just sit on the Villarreal bench forever and pretend that you're happy about it, especially when, you know, you're kind of wanting to develop with your career. He's relatively young. He's 26 years old. It's supposedly his prime years, and he's looking for that next big move away from Spurs. He needs to do something, which is why we are being linked. However, it's not just him that we're linked with. We've had a little bit of conversation around Tyreek George. There's been all sorts of various sort of top 6 club players that might have stuck with their sides in summer thinking, you know what, I'm going to break into the side. It's going to be my time. You might be able to hear the baby there. My apologies. It's going to be my time. It's going to be fantastic. And it's just not. The name of Tyreek George that I just mentioned. Let's have another quick look at how much football he's actually played. Has 8 appearances so far this season. 4 in the Premier League, 4 in the Champions League. That's not going to be enough for what he wants because he's going to want to keep developing, he's going to want to keep improving, he's going to want to start honing his game at that age. He's 19 years old, which means that he's got time. But those are formative years for a player. So this is where he's got to sort of start building on that. And I think this is where we're going to really do well in this transfer window. Yes, you can say that Leeds clearly have a bit of money because we were going to buy Harry Wilson. And I'll be honest, there's the player that I would quite like us to buy being Edward Spurgeon, who might cost us like £7 to £10 million. But if we're talking on the finance side and we're saying, well, we might have PSR issues towards the end of the year, this is where a loan just makes sense. Because if you are looking at a player that has a wage of 40 grand a week, why not? If you're going to say that we're going to have him for half a year, we'll call it 25 weeks. That's about £1 million, which is a lot of money. Let's not sort of beat around the bush around that. I know that football money tends to get like blown out of proportion all the time, but £1 million compared to signing a player for 8 to 12, we'll say, if we're looking for a sort of lower end decent winger slash 10. And then you've got their wages, which is going to be that extra £1 million. Then you've got to sort of think, well, what's the benefit of signing someone permanently right now? because you would also need to get them sort of going with the tactical scheme of the club and all this kind of stuff, and you need to get them in the right sort of shape and fitness level because we know that Daniel Farke is going hard on fitness this season. Whereas if you're signing someone on loan, sure, you're not going to be able to sort of ingratiate them into the side for the long term, and that's going to potentially be a little bit of an issue because you're going to need to replace them in the summer. But if we're saying that in the immediate term we need to make some fairly big shifts and we don't have the funds to do it, sod it, go for a loan. And if it comes to it, sod it, go for a loan with an option to buy or a mandatory buys clause that like expires after the 30th of June. So that way you are still signing the player permanently. It's just with a little bit of different structuring. I think from what we've learned about the way that the 49ers work is yes, they make a good few mistakes. That happens. But they're not stupid on the business side. Business is kind of what they do. They are working on a massive stadium redevelopment for Leeds United at the minute, and that is a hell of a job, and it requires a lot of financial management and all that kind of stuff. They deal with 49ers things, which is a league that is ridiculously embedded in rules and regulations all surrounding finance. So this sort of attentiveness means that I think if we do see moves in January, they will be done with the idea of, yeah, we're supporting the squad, but also we're not going to push PSR too hard. I don't realistically see us being in a position where we are forced to sell someone before the 30th of June unless we go down. And if that happens, that's a problem because relegation is going to leave a big black hole in the finances. But according to Robbie Evans, when he did his big sort of nattery thing to all the journalists, yeah, there are some release clauses. It's not the loan bollocks, which means we'll get a decent bit of money in. A lot of them are profitable. It'll be fantastic. We'll hope. For me, if we are making these loan deals, if they are in attacking areas, if they bring a little bit of youth, a bit of vigour, a little bit of spice, and a little bit of life to the front line, that's what we need because we've proven recently that the sort of tactical changes can definitely help us, can definitely point us in the right direction. And once that back three clicks a little bit better, we'll start conceding fewer goals. A lot of people pointed out that, well, I've conceded a lot in the last three. Yeah, Chelsea, Liverpool, City. You concede a lot in those games. But with that shift to a three at the back, we should be more solid against the majority of teams. However, it means you've got fewer players going forwards, which means that any talent that we add is going to have to be good. And I personally cannot wait for us to add it, because that's going to be a good time. Anyway, as always, that's just what I think. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. It's always a good time. I will potentially do a stream later on today to sort of preview the Brentford match, depending on when I wake up, because I also have work as well, and it's going to be a bit of a chaotic one. And I'm going to leave that there. Hope you all enjoyed, and I will see you later. I don't know if you heard that, but that was either a burp or a fart. So I'm going to go deal with that. See you later.